Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the HTML and CSS tutorial. Today I'm going to be discussing buttons. So first I'm going to be creating an H1 heading and let's say what are buttons? There we go. Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit and yeah, I'm also going to be starting to cover CSS. So I'm going to add an attribute, something called a class. So let's set the name. This can be anything. I'm going to say heading. Then save. Then when you got your CSS style sheet linked, you can go over there. Then you can use a dot to select a class. Let's take the heading. So class is heading, so dot heading and curly brackets. Then I'm gonna make the let's say color, and that's gonna be yellow. And when you save, you can see that the text color has changed. That's not very visible though. We have a few ways of picking colors. First we have RGB, red, green and blue. Then we have the hex value. And we have hue, saturation and lightness, or HSL values. I like to use HSL because the lightness is easy to choose from here. Let's go with something blue, like that. Alright. Then let's say text align center. That will center align the text. Now don't get too overwhelmed. CSS is learned by learning a little bit at a time and doing a little bit at a time. So you don't have to remember these immediately. When you get enough practice, you will eventually learn this. So yeah, don't worry about that. So yeah, don't worry about remembering all the CSS and HTML properties and elements. When you get enough practice, you will eventually learn them and you don't have to remember them after one episode. So, this is called a CSS selector that selects an element. In this case, it selects this element. The H1 heading, we have a class on that. Now, if we did not have this class, the styles disappear. But if I change the selector to H1, which means basically this is the tag, H1, heading 1, and save, we get the styles back. So yeah, the way that the selectors work in CSS is that the more precise your selector is, the more precise selector will override the other styles. So basically, if we have that, that's gonna apply the same styles to all headings. Another heading. So yeah. However, if I add a class over here and say heading 2 for example, and then I'm gonna go here and select dot heading 2 and let's say color red. That's gonna be red because a class is more specific than a tag. So the more precise the selector is, that will override the other styles. For example, these styles are being overridden by these because this is more precise. However, the text align center still applies over here because we don't make any changes to that property in here. So this is called a property value pair. This is called the CSS property, and this is the value that you want to assign. Property is color, and this is the value. So property value pair. All right. What if we say heading to color green? Well, that's gonna override this one because it's underneath. What if we switch these? Well, then this is gonna be the style that gets applied because this is the last one that is making any changes to this element. So yeah, if the selector specificity is the same, then the last one will get applied. Alright, that's the basics for CSS. And then I'm gonna be discussing buttons. So let's say buttons in HTML. So let's create a BR tag to add a break line and also a horizontal rule. There we go, we got that nice little line. Then I'm gonna create a button, and in between I'm gonna say click me. Okay, so we got a button. It currently doesn't do anything though. Okay, next I wanna add some CSS styling to the button. And I'm also gonna go through the 3 different ways of writing CSS. So the first one is something called inline CSS. So we can use the style attribute and make it equal to something. So inside of this we can write CSS. Let's say color is gonna be white and background color is going to be black. And save, and the changes have applied. So this style attribute allows us to write inline CSS. Then there's also something called internal CSS. So you can go to the head element and then create a style tag, and in between you can say button, take the button, and let's say font size, let's say 2em. 2em means basically 200%. And now you can see the button is a lot bigger. So yeah, inline, this is inline CSS, this is internal CSS, and then the most popular way is to use external CSS. So that means that we have a external file like this for writing CSS. So let's take the button. I'm actually gonna add a class. So new line and class button dash example. Alright, and then I'm gonna go ahead and select that. So a dot to select a class button dash example. By the way, the capitalization on your letters needs to be exactly the same as in the attribute. So let's say that the let's add some padding, 10 pixels. So padding means space inside of the element. Alright, margin 10 pixels, that means space outside of the element. Alright, and let's say border none, so that will remove the border from the button. button border removed. And then we can say border radius 10 pixels. Okay. Button borders rounded or smoothed. So now you can see that the button has round corners, some padding, space on the inside, some margin, space on the outside, no border, and some round corners with the border radius. Now you don't have to remember all of this from the first episode. You're gonna learn these as you go through. You can right click and inspect, and then you can go and find the button. You can go over here to the computed tab, and then here we have the box model for CSS. So I have selected the button. So this is the essential content. Then we have the padding, space on the inside. Then we have the border, we don't have one. And then we got the margin. And margin is gonna be space outside of the element. So this is the CSS and HTML box model. We will discuss that more in the future. Alright, one more thing that I'm gonna add is cursor : pointer. So when I hover over, the cursor is gonna change into a pointer. Alright, the button doesn't do anything yet though. That's what we need JavaScript for, and we haven't really discussed that yet, but this is all you need to know for now. Okay, in the previous episode we learned about the A tag or the anchor tag. Now I can go ahead and surround this with some anchor tags. So there we go. And then I'm gonna press tab to add an indentation. And then I'm gonna add an href, a location, let's say Google. There we go. And target underscore blank. Alright. So now this button is going to be a link because it's inside of the anchor tag. Can also put these all into one single line like that. And let me actually get rid of the style attribute. I'm gonna copy these or cut them, Ctrl X. I'm gonna paste them over here like that. I'm gonna save. I'm gonna remove the style attribute. And I'm gonna save. So I feel like this is a little bit easier to read. Alright, when we click, it's gonna open Google in a new tab. So the location or the link is here, and then target underscore blank makes it so that it will be opened in a new tab. We also have a very special attribute for buttons, and that's something called onClick. So onClick, let's say function example and brackets. Then I'm gonna add a script tag. This is a little bit advanced. However, this is gonna be JavaScript, so let's create a function example brackets curly brackets. So when I click the button, we will execute this function. I'm gonna add an ID as well. So this button has an ID of testbtn. So when I click, I'm gonna do document.get element by ID, the ID is test btn. Then I'm gonna access the text content and make it equal to good job. And remember to add a colon. So when I click this, actually, there's one more thing. The ID is at the wrong place. So let me create a paragraph over here. Test paragraph. Hello. Okay. And this needs to be changed. So make sure you have the onClick attribute. Then we have a function example. And then we declare a function example. And then we get an element by its ID. That's going to be this element. It has the text hello. And on click, when I click the button, I want to change the text to good job. So there we go. It works. So now it says hello. Now it says good job. So yeah, that's some JavaScript. This is kind of advanced. You don't have to know this at this point, but I thought it would be nice to show that. Let's rename this. Change text. Okay. Then let's add a class to the paragraph. So my text1. Let's go over here. Let's select the class my text1, and font size will be 2em, 200%. Okay, let's click. Good job. All right. So yeah, that is an introduction to buttons and CSS and a little bit of JavaScript as well. However, you don't have to know the JavaScript part yet. And this course is not even for JavaScript, so this was a little bit advanced, but that's okay. Anyways, now you know what a button is, and you know that you can change buttons into links and stuff like that. We are going to be using these a lot in the future, so yeah. Also, don't worry about these. You don't have to remember them after this episode. We are going to have a lot more practice with these in the future. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope you were able to learn something new. And yeah, bye bye everyone, and have a wonderful day. And happy learning. See you!